Welcome back, nerds. Today we are discussing the Easter eggs we found in the Disney Plus series Loki, Episode 1. Let's jump in. Before we start, this does contain spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. So starting off with number 1, as we see Loki escaping with the Tesseract, he finds himself falling from the sky above Mongolia's Gobi Desert. This scene might be a sense of deja vu for you longtime MCU fans. In 2008's Iron Man, Tony Stark escapes from his capture by building the first suit and flying away to safety, also landing in a remote desert, leaving us with a symbolic correlation of how Iron Man marked the beginning of the MCU. Number 2, Loki gets taken into custody by the Time Variance Authority, an organization overseeing the entirety of time and space. The TVA comes directly from the Marvel comic books. They were introduced by the 1986 issue of Thor that featured several time-jumping agents. Number 3, as Loki is brought into the TVA, if you pay close attention, we catch a glimpse in the background of a familiar species, Skrulls. Given their ability to shapeshift and assimilate the forms of other races, it's not surprising that a Skrull might be hanging out around the front desk. It's not clear why the Skrull was there. The lacking of guards around would suggest that they aren't a variant. It's a reminder that secret invasion is lurking just right around the corner. Number 4, we get introduced on how the TVA long ago was formed due to a destruction in the sacred timeline and an outgoing war happening coming from the similarities of 2015's Secret Wars comic event. The infomercial also confirms the organization to be led by 3 timekeepers who oversee the combined reality and dictate the proper flow of time. They were first introduced in the late 1970s, created from the sole remaining survivor of the previous destruction of the universe. Number 5, the TVA repeatedly used diagrams of a single flowing timeline with branches shooting off to represent unwanted deviations. Longtime fans of the MCU might recognize this from Avengers Endgame, where the Ancient One drew something similar while explaining the consequences of time travel to Bruce Banner. It is, however, a possibility that the Ancient One has visited the TVA herself once upon a time. Get it? Time. Number 6. Okay, it's a bit of a stretch, but we will just go ahead and say it. Mephisto. When Mobius, played by the wonderful Owen Wilson, asks a young girl who committed time crimes in 16th century France, the child points at a stained glass window showing a devil. Loki, alongside WandaVision, drops several hints that Marvel's own Satan would appear. There could be an explanation. Mobius claims to be chasing down an alternate version of Loki. It's highly likely that the child was mistaken the god of mischief's famous horned helmet for demonic horns. Number 7, although her name isn't mentioned in Loki's premiere, the TVA's judge is actually Ravonna Renslayer. She made her debut in a 1965 Avengers issue. In the comics, she is a human from the future, mostly associated as a villainous figure with Kang the Conqueror. We know Marvel has something up their sleeve that's in store for Renslayer later on. Number 8, we finally get what we came for, an explanation of the events that transpired in Avengers Endgame. During the interrogation, Loki points out that it wasn't him who meddled with the timeline, but those pesky Avengers who penetrated the quantum realm and disrupted the natural cause of events in the aftermath of the Battle of New York. He just merely picked up the Tesseract that fell at his feet. Renslayer confirms the Avengers' time heist was entirely sanctioned by the Timekeepers. This explains all that happened, including Steve Rogers going back to be with Peggy and past Gamora staying in present time. Number 9, attempting to change Loki, Mobius has access to a handy high-tech screen that displays Loki's greatest hits. It begins with his defeat and arrest in 2012's The Avengers. Probably not Loki's favorite moment to be captured from the reel. It then switches to Phil Coulson's death, which we all know he would love to highlight, before moving on to images of civilian deaths from the Battle of New York, the gala eyeball removal scene, and dictator speech he makes before fighting Captain America. Number 10, this one is more of an Easter egg from real-world history than Marvel lore. but my personal favorite from the episode. Loki reveals the truth about, wait for it, D.B. Cooper. In 1971, a non-identified man boarded a Boeing 727. He held the aircraft ransom for $200,000, then parachuted out with the cash. Seeing this dive into Loki's past reveals that thanks to a loss with his big brother Thor, Loki left Asgard to pull the plane heist himself as some kind of stunt. From the hairstyle matching the real D.B. Cooper artist's impression, there's an impressive attention to detail in this one scene. Kudos to you, Marvel. Number 11. As Loki tries to escape the TVA, he finds himself hiding behind the desk of a regular working man by the name of Casey. As he's hiding, he stumbles upon, you guessed it, Infinity Stones, and lots of them. The scene essentially confirms that the power of these fabled jewels has led to more than a few timeline variant incidents over the years, but also undermines the once unstoppable power of the Infinity Stones. This tells us that the Infinity Saga has finally ended. And finally, number 12. In the final scene of Loki's season 1 premiere, it may be possibly hinting at the future villain of the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. The MCU introduced Kang the Conqueror, a major comic book bad guy played by Jonathan Majors. Out in the 19th century Oklahoma, TVA agents find a piece of tech coming from the third millennium. Though it might be coincidental, the mysterious hooded figure is more likely a Loki variant than Kang himself, but one can only hope. But since Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumanium and Loki both deal with the same means, it wouldn't be strange for Kang to be appearing in the MCU future. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, let us know what you think. Don't forget to follow us on social media, like and subscribe on YouTube, and until next time, nerd on.